Hello everybody. Have you ever read or heard about a terrible and seemingly irrational violent act committed by someone under the influence of severe mental illness? What were your first reactions? Fear? Anger? Disgust? Sadness? Whatever those feelings were, they are completely valid, just because they are your feelings and your reaction to something terrible. But have you ever stopped to think about how such a situation can come about? What the stories behind these acts, behind the persons committing these acts are? As a clinical psychologist and researcher, I have spent the last 2 decades in the service of society, trying to understand and prevent persons on roads to and from severe mental illness and violence. Today, I will share perspectives with you on such stories. And this will be challenging. And I must be clear that even though the suffering of the victims cannot be underestimated, I will not apply a victim perspective today, simply because it is not what I know best. And I hope that you all will join me on this journey of an increased understanding. So let's start off by getting our facts straight. What do we actually know? Are there roads to severe mental illness and violence? Well, we do know quite a bit from research, actually. We know on risk factors for violence and also on the possible interplay between mental illness and violence. And one of those facts is that mental illness, if we do not count in substance abuse in that, is not the most significant risk factor for violence. We also know that most persons with mental illness do not act violently against others as a result of the mental illness. We also know of methods that are effective in preventing violence in society, even though, as a matter of fact, these methods are not applied to a larger extent in our societies. But today, we are not here because we know. And I am not here today to teach. While knowledge is crucial for our development as humans, it is not what always guides our actions, or should I perhaps say reactions. How can we know when we do not understand? Today, we will try to grasp something which is so inconceivable, especially if you have been lucky enough not to be confronted with such circumstances during your lifetime. Today, we will get a glimpse of 2 persons' journeys, Sarah and Michael, on the road to and from severe mental illness and violence. Michael and Sarah are completely fictional characters, but their stories are based on real-life cases. We will shortly watch a movie together, showing their road from destruction to reconstruction and rehabilitation. And their journeys will be guiding us in an increased joint understanding of such journeys. Come with me as we watch the movie, but beware. There will be scenes in the movie that will be perceived as disturbing. I trust all of you to join me in this with open minds, as we take part of 2 struggling minds.
Så fucking äcklig. Va? Va?
Okay, you guys. So let us try together to gather our minds on what we just have witnessed. We got to follow two people's journeys, Sarah and Michael. And I think it is clear that despite that, I think we all wish that we would be able to early recognize if someone is on a destructive road and help that person. It is not a single journey, but it's rather very much a combination of individual circumstances. For Michael, we see that he grows up in a destructive environment. And it may be that using alcohol and drugs might be one of the few escapes from the harshness of reality that he so far has learned of. We do not see much that may act as protective for Michael, even though it is clear that his dog is important to him. And I sincerely wish, if Michael would have been a real person, I sincerely wish that there would have been some adult. And I know there are Michaels out there, right? I know some of you may have met a Michael. And I just wish that there could have been someone who could have seen him and his struggles and showed him that there are other roads in life as well, that there actually is help to get. For Sarah, it is not obvious in the same way that the young girl, somewhat keeping to herself in the classroom, is beginning to struggle with hearing voices. Voices disturbing her sense of reality. As we get to follow Sarah and Michael through adulthood, it is clear that we see two persons who are trying to struggling with their severe mental illness, that they try to understand their world, but their understanding is distorted by experiences and perceptions that they share with no one else in their environment. Imagine, as it is for Sarah, experiencing that your neighbors are threatening you to death. In Sarah's case, leading her to threaten her neighbors back. For Michael, his perceived instructions to stab could have had fatal outcomes for a young woman and her baby if the police not had intervened when they did. But we don't only see destruction in this movie. We also actually get a glimpse of roads to reconstruction. For both Michael and Sarah, their roads involve treatment in forensic psychiatric care, focusing not only on their severe mental illness, but also on trying to learn to manage the struggles of everyday life. Struggles that I think we all as humans can recognize. Getting our shit together with the shit that we have to manage. I also believe that we can recognize that roads and struggles can take very different forms. And that it may be actually the small things that make a real difference. For instance, in most cases, a person removing his or her hoodie would not have any specific meaning. But when Michael does it, exposing himself to the harshness of reality, it holds a meaning. It holds a decision. For both Sarah and Michael, society intervened, albeit too late and with too much unnecessary suffering, both for they themselves, the victims, and persons in their near environment. For Sarah, we get to see that her hard work and rehabilitation led her on a road of reconstruction and of actually reconnecting with loved ones. For Michael, we see that his hard work in rehabilitation is impacted by the struggle with drugs, showing us that the struggle to become free from drugs is real, even though Michael is just a fictional character. In this movie, we see despair, but we also see hope. So do we have the answers now? Do we know how to prevent violence and severe mental illness in our society? If you were hoping to be sitting with those answers now, I must disappoint you. This talk has not been about giving straight answers. This talk has been about giving room for perspectives, about trying to understand that struggles can take very different forms, and that we cannot do as humans something that we never have learned to do. This talk has been about the fact that we are all humans, despite our actions may imply something entirely else. And if there is one point, just one point, that I hope that you bring with you home today, that would be that there is a story behind everything. And behind this story is a person. Thank you.